Hello and welcome to Mind on the Match with me and James. This is the second episode of our special guest series where we get people from within the football industry on. And this week we've got former Newcastle and Crystal Palace defender Peter Ramage. Cheers for coming on, mate.
No problem. Thanks for having us, chaps.
No, thank you.
No worries. Cheers for coming on. So what we'll do, we'll start right from the beginning, even before you signed any deal in football. What first got you into football? Because we when we were researching, your dad were a rugby player, weren't he? Semi-professional rugby.
Yeah, he was. He was semi-professional. He broke his neck when he was 27, the year before I was born, and went into rugby refereeing. But coming through the early ages, we lived up at Berwick-upon-Tweed, and coming through the early ages, he was my football coach, like my Sunday league coach. Never really encouraged me to play rugby or football. It was just whatever I wanted to play. Like I said, he was my coach, but he was still involved in the rugby. On a Saturday, he was refereeing. I used to go and watch his games all the time whenever I wasn't playing myself. I love the sport. I love rugby. But it was football all the way for me. To be honest, if you had far over, mark some nippy centre forward, then come up against some big 6'7", hairy second row guy. So it was always football for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing the broken neck put you off a bit as well.
Yeah.
Well, I played it at school. To be fair, I actually really enjoyed playing rugby. I played it at school. Berwick wasn't a big rugby in terms of the kids. Wasn't a big rugby. Like my best friend played it, but we always used to play football in the playground or after school. We used to go to the fields and play football, not rugby. It was like I said, I love. Sometimes I prefer rather watch a rugby game than I do a football game, but. No, it was always football for me.
So you obviously started at Newcastle. How did you come about? Was it scouting? You got scouted for Newcastle's academy at the time?
Yeah, I was. I was up in Berwick. We had a really good team, both school and Sunday team. But we played because Berwick's literally in the middle of nowhere. There's hardly any teams around, so we played in Newcastle leagues. So up and down. Every other Sunday playing. I just caught the eye of a scout. Jimmy Blackall was his name. Then he came to watch me in a couple of school games. And then I got a 6-week trial with one of the other lads who I played with, and the rest they say is history.
Yeah. And so you were there for quite a while before you actually broke through to the first team. What was that feeling like, breaking through?
Yeah, it was great. I went in on trial as an 11-year-old. So I was young when I went in. Progressed through all the age groups, the youth teams, the reserve teams, and I was a late kind of developer in terms of making my debut. I was 21, which was frustrating in the period kind of a few years beforehand. I was always in the reserves, captain the reserves. Always, I had a couple of opportunities to go on loan, but then the first team would get an injury, and I was always kind of like, I suppose in terms of like the cricket, I was kind of like the 19th man or the 12th man, if you want to use a cricketing term. I was always that guy that would travel and then not make the bench, which was frustrating because all I wanted to do was play first team games. But, I was in an environment around, Alan Shearer, Gary Speed, Shea Given, Kieran Dyer, players like that, which, for me as a young kid, I was learning every single day I was there. And then, my kind of first appearance came in the UEFA Cup against Olympiacos, and then my Premier League debut came a few months later at Old Trafford against Man United, which was kind of a...
Two big games.
Yeah. Well, the European game, the tie was over and done with. And having jokes, still good friends with Steve Hartman, work with him now at Newcastle, and he, Graham Soon, I think we were 6-1 up or 5-1 up in the tie with like 20 minutes to go, and Souness turned around, asked Harps if he wanted the last 20 minutes or so, whatever it was, and Harps like, nah, just stick one of the kids on. I think it was a race between me and one of the other kids to see who could get stripped off and ready to go first. And whilst I wasn't quick on the pitch, I was quick to get ready to get on.
Kit off.
Get my kit off and get on. So yeah, it was a great experience for me as a Geordie. I'm a Newcastle fan, born and bred, and to realise the dream of playing in front of friends and family and the Geordie nation. It was a combination of a lot of years of hard work.
I bet, yeah.
Were you nervous? Sorry, were you nervous?
No.
Or were you?
Yeah, you know what it is? No, I wasn't before on my debut because, like I said, we were 5-1 up or 6-1 up at the tie. They'd given up. Olympiacos had given up. I was a little bit gutted because I came on just as Rivaldo the ex-Brazilian superstar, was coming on, and I wanted to share a picture of Rivaldo. You know, I revered Barcelona in that age group, in that era, sorry. But no, I quickly came on, and actually we scored to make it 7-1 in the tie, or 6-1. Again, I can't remember the score, but it was just relaxing. It was nice. It was an easy introduction to first-team football because there was no pressure. I got a lot of the ball. I was playing in front of James Milner, who, even though he was young at the time, was an experience in terms of the amount of games that he played. And it was, you know, on the pitch with, like I said, with Shearer, Shea Given, them kind of players. They made it an easy transition into the first team football.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was amazing how you played. So you broke through with schoolmate, didn't you, Stephen Taylor? Yeah. What was that like playing with you, like one of your good mates at the time?
Yeah, it was. Tails was a couple of years younger than me. He was actually in the same year as my sister at school, but we'd go. I moved down from Berwick to Whitley Bay when we were 11 or 12, and Tails was, like I said, same age as my sister, so we'd known each other for a long time. Played in the youth teams together, the reserves together, and he made his debut a couple of years before me. And I mean, he was an unbelievable talent. A really, really underrated defender, in my opinion. I think his kind of actions off the field and on the field somewhat kind of make him the pantomime villain, so to speak. But take that aside, he was a really good defender, and to play alongside him, I played quite a few games at centre half alongside him in the first team was great, because, you know, we had a good chemistry amongst each other. We knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we could cover for them. So it was great, and to play alongside my mate as well, which was, you know, we still speak to this day, and it's great to see what he's gone and done in his career, but also to kind of start my career with him.
Mm. Yeah, that and as well, obviously. So did the Olympiacos debut help with Man United then? Going to Old Trafford in terms of
No.
I didn't think it would have done.
No, I mean, it was like 30-odd thousand at St James. Like I said, the tie was done, and then, you know, walking out in front of 70 or 60, 70,000 it's against Man United, you know what I mean? It was kind of a baptism of fire. I mean, to be fair, we were not hiding to nothing. We weren't expected to go there and get any sort of result. We were in an injury crisis, which is why I was making my debut. I think Stephen Carr played. We obviously a right back, played in the middle of the park. It was a game where, like I said, we were expected to get battered. So Souness was great with me, just says, got no expectations of you other than to go out and enjoy and soak up the atmosphere and enjoy the experience. Darren Ambrose scored, we went 1-0 up, and, you know, Rooney goes on and scores that incredible volley, and Wes Brown scores with about 5 minutes to go, and you know, we almost sneaked the result out of it, which was, for me, it was okay. The result was secondary. I just enjoyed playing there, and it was an unbelievable occasion to play at the Theatre of Dreams. You know, outside of St James's Park, which is probably the one stadium you'd love to make your debut at, and against, you know, Wayne Rooney was playing, like I said, Ryan Giggs was playing. These superstars who I'd, you know, watched on the TV, to come be on the same pitch. I think the more daunting thing for me was actually, you know, the lineup before the game, when you're shaking all these geezers' hands, so I was like starstruck somewhat, but, you know, once the whistle went, I was kind of focused on the game, and like I said, we almost sneaked the result.
Yeah, I remember that goal. We were arguing with the referee, weren't we? And he just turned and volleyed it straight in.
Yeah.
So, but you took your chance with it, like you said, with injuries got you into the team, but then you really grafted the chance, didn't you? Because in 2005-06 season, you played, I think, 29 games in the Premier League. You had you were a mainstay, weren't you, in the team?
Yeah, I was somewhat a poly fella. I just filled in the holes, which was always something that's followed me throughout my career. I was quite versatile. You know, I worked a lot on my game when I was younger. I knew that I wasn't the most talented player, so I had to work on my game, and that helped me and hindered me somewhat. But I played right back, left back, centre back. Wherever there was a position that needed filled, it seemed to be me. I think 1 week we had a Wednesday, Saturday game, and I played all three positions, kind of right, left, centre, which was, again, for me, I didn't care as long as it was in that starting lineup. Like I said, maybe hindered me going forward with my career at Newcastle, but it's something that's helped me have the career that I've had.
Yeah, it was a good season as well. We finished 7th, I think.
Yeah, we did. I think Glenn Roder, came in, and we had somewhat of a bumpy road to start with, but Glenn just came in and gave us the freedom to play. We had an unbelievable talent going forward, and we managed to sneak into the, I think we finished 7th, like you said, and we got into the UEFA Cup, I think it was back then, and the season after, to go and play against Frankfurt, Celta Vigo, teams like this was incredible experience for me as well.
Yeah.
Did you find it a difficult decision then, leaving Newcastle? I think it was Kevin Keegan that wanted to keep you on, but couldn't guarantee you first team football.
Yeah, I came off the back of, I'd done my cruciate, so I'd missed literally the whole of the season. Sam Allardyce was the manager at the start of the season, and I think it was the 3rd or 4th game away at Borough. I came on for Stephen Carr after 5 minutes, and then I tore my cruciate about 5 minutes after half time, and that was my season, basically. Big Sam came and went, and Keegan came in, and I was, like I said, I'd missed the whole of the season. I was back. I got back for the last couple of the games, but I had a real heart-to-heart with Keegan, who, as a Newcastle fan, it's like walking and sitting in front of God. You just idolised him, but he was, he's pretty honest with me, which is all I've ever wanted from a manager. He said that I wasn't going to be a regular. He was going to be bringing players in that, I was going to be treated as equally as the stars that were going to come in, but my game time was probably going to be limited. But whilst he always, said it would be best for me to go and try and play football, that until I signed on the dotted line somewhere, that a contract would be there for me to sign. And if I did want to sign it, then he'd be delighted and count me as one of the centre-backs or defenders that was going to fight for a spot. So, but I just needed a change. I got relegated the season after, and I might have played a lot of games, and who knows what might have happened, but I don't regret the decision to leave. I went to QPR and had a 3-4 unbelievable years there.
That was good. That was good of Keegan as well, weren't it, to say?
Yeah, we sat in his office for about an hour, had a cup of coffee, and he just outlaid the plans that he'd got for the club going forward. And I was going to be part of them, but I wasn't going to be a mainstay. And I was 24 at the time, and like I said, I was on the back of a long-term injury, which was, probably going to take me time to get back into the full flow. Again, we got relegated the season after, so who knows what might have happened for me personally. But it was great just to sit and chat with him. He's such an infectious character who's, like I say, he's revered by everybody. And for me, it was like sitting in front of God. It was an incredible moment that I had with him that I'll treasure. For the rest of my days. But he was, like I said, the one thing I always appreciate about him was that he was honest. And when I signed for QPR, he was the first person to ring me and congratulate me and, wish me all the best, which is, again, a phone call that I'll cherish.
Yeah, that says a lot about him as a man, doesn't it? As well as a manager.
Yeah, I think it's...
to be honest, aren't you?
Correct.
Everybody wants.
Correct. Every player wants it, but doesn't like it. They want to be told the truth, but they want the truth to be in their favour, which sometimes can be great and sometimes can be bad. But for me, I've always been like that, whether it's good or bad news, just tell me the truth, and that's what he was. And I think it's obviously well documented how much of a man manager he is. He didn't do a lot of coaching on the field. He had a lot of good coaches around him that could help him, but as a motivator, one of the best that I've come across.
Yep. So obviously we touched on leaving Newcastle, but then you went to QPR. So you had to drop down a division for that. How was that transition going to the Championship? And you found it a lot different to the Premier League? Or?
It was actually a lot quicker, a lot more fast paced. The Premier League, you sometimes get a lot more time on the ball, but you have to be clinical and everything in all your actions. Even passing, you make a mistake in a pass and can lead up to a goal, whereas a Championship might get away with it. But it's blood and thunder, which kind of suited my game because I wasn't the most talented, but I'll roll my sleeves up and get down and dirty, so to speak, in terms of scrapping and fighting for points. But it was literally out of the frying pan and into the fire going into QPR with everything that was going on off the field. But it kind of brought all the group together and ultimately led to them getting promoted, which was nothing short of what the players and the staff at the time deserved.
Yeah, I remember they had a documentary, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was, the documentary started the day that I signed. So Matt, the director, I met him the day I signed. He was coming in to finalise everything, and we got kind of close. And it was a 4-year plan, but I think they'd done it after 3, which was he was like, well, what am I going to do for the last year? You know, I've got nothing to do now. I'm supposed to be here for 4 years, which was great. But it was good to be part of. They were there. There was a fly in the wall documentary, like it is with the Spurs one that's just come out, and the Man City one that was previously on Amazon Prime. It was great to have them in and around the place. They became kind of part of the family and part of the furniture, which they caught some footage that's been edited, which was made to look good. But it was good to be part of that.
Yeah, went through quite a few managers as well, didn't they?
Yeah, we did. We had it was kind of a revolving door, which I think it was a kind of an in-house joke that the tea lady was going to be at manager. I think she was odds on at one point, and the chef was. It was good fun. I mean, it was good fun looking back. It kind of, I think that all that kind of drama that we went through just made it extra special when the guys got promoted, or when we got promoted. It made it all the more sweeter. I think the one guy that came in and needed to sort the place out came in and done an incredible job in Neil Warnock, and I think he was what was needed at the football club at the right time to kind of lead the ship in the direction it was supposed to go.
Yeah, we're big fans of Neil Warnock, aren't we, James?
Yeah, massive.
So then went into loan spells as well after during QPR. Birmingham and Palace.
Yeah, the last year, the year we got promoted again, I'd done my other knee, so I was out for the whole season. I had 2 cruciates. The second one I'd done was the year we got promoted again, 4th game of the season against Middlesbrough. It was kind of something that was a bit ironic. But yeah, so I missed the whole of that promotion season. I played, I think it was 4 or 5 games. And I was at the end of my contract as well, but similar to what Kevin Keegan done, Neil Warnock gave me a new year, which this time I snapped up. I needed that security, which was great. Ahmed Batia, who was the chairman, I think he's still the chairman now at QPR, was incredible with me, and so was Neil. And they offered me the extra year. They were going to be in the Premier League. It was a time obviously similar to now. I think it was the first or second year when you had to name a squad of 25. You know, Neil said I wasn't going to be part of the first half of the season, to go out and get some games and then, you know, fight for a spot for the second half. And that's when Crystal Palace came on the phone. Dougie Freeman obviously had the relationship with Neil and rang up and asked if I would go down. And, you know, it wasn't a decision that I got to make. It was kind of getting the car, you're going down and around the M25, and Dougie's going to meet you at Croydon Park Hotel. So that was the first half of my season. And then Neil left, Mark Hughes came in. Beginning of January, Dougie was looking to keep me for the rest of the season. So I spoke to Mark Hughes, who was not long through the door, and he wanted me to go back and have a look at me over the month of January, which was a bit frustrating because I knew I wasn't going to be part of these plans. They just signed Neda Manua. There was other big names that were involved at the club at the time, and I begged them to stay at Palace. Dougie did. But unfortunately, I went back, and the opportunity to go back to Palace for the rest of the season, you know, came and went, and that's when I ended up. I think it was sort of middle of February. I ended up going up to Birmingham for the remainder of the season, which was to work with Chris Hughton, who I worked with at Newcastle, and that was a great experience. Which, you know, we almost got promoted there.
What are your thoughts on like loan moves? Do you think they're beneficial for your career?
They helped me. You know, my loan move to Palace ultimately enabled me to go back the following season. So if I hadn't gone there, then who knows what would have happened. The Birmingham one was, I really enjoyed Birmingham. You know, we got beat off Blackpool the year that we got promoted. We got beat off them in the playoff semi-final, which was an incredible experience to be part of. It was a club which I could have saved myself staying there. Chris, I think he indicated that he was going to offer me something, but he said he had some plans in the pipework, which ultimately ended up with him going to Norwich. But then, yeah, I mean, the loan moves, they can be, I come and go with them. Obviously, being a coach now, they can help and hinder. I've seen them benefit young kids, and I've seen them ruin them, to be honest with you. It depends on the environment you go into. But I was somewhat of an experienced pro at the time when I made my moves, and grasped them with both opportunities. And for me, I went to environments where I knew that I was going to improve, that I knew I was going to play. I think loan moves can sometimes be detrimental when the kids or the players just going there to make up a number and not play. I think if you're going to go on loan, you've got to go on loan and play, which is what I did. So it benefited me.
Yeah, and then one of them loan moves you ended up signing permanently was at Crystal Palace. Did that have a big influence in you joining Palace, that initial loan move you had?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I was desperate to stay in the January. I had a real affinity for the club, the way that Dougie treated me. Lenny Lawrence was there with Curtis Fleming, and Tony Popovich. The staff was incredible. Like I said, I was coming off the back of a long-term injury, and the physio department and the sports science department were brilliant with me in it and gave me, the extra time after games to get myself right. And the players were just, I just love them. I speak to more of them guys than I do any other, group of players that I've played with at any other clubs. We just had a real bond. So, when Dougie rang me up in the summer, I think it was 2012, to ask if I wanted to come back down, initially just to train, just to get fit. I couldn't have got in the car quick enough and down the A1 to sign or to go and train with him. And then, when he offered me a deal, it was, it wasn't a case of any salary on it. I just wanted to play for the club, and it turned out not bad in the end.
Yeah, you obviously played a massive part in that promotion-winning side. Would you say that season probably the highlight of your career, or? Yeah,
100%. It was a season where I think we were almost odds on to get relegated. We started the season off really poorly. I think we got beaten the first 3 games, and my old mate Damien Delaney walked through the doors, and I think we beat it was a Sheffield Wednesday at home or something like that, and we kind of took off from there. And we just had we used the phrase band of brothers, but it really was. We had a really close-knit group that year, and that Dougie kind of almost made into robots. We just knew what each other's strengths and weaknesses. We had a good spine to the team, with the sprinkling of, the stardust of Wilf, Yala Balassi and Glenn Murray up top. With them 3, you knew we were going to score goals. So it was a case of, the back line, including myself, just trying to keep them out. Keep them out. And that's what we did. And it kind of worked really well for us, like I said, that season, which ended up in, obviously promotion via the playoffs.
So how good was Zaha? He's class, isn't he? Seems a class player.
Yeah, Wilf was young at the time. That season he was on another level. He was just given the freedom to do what he wanted, to be brutally honest with you, because like I said, we understood that Wilf was going to give the ball away maybe 7-8 times out of 10. But the 1 or 2 times that he was going to get away with things, he was going to come up with something that ultimately ended up in a goal. So, he worked his socks off, but Wilf wanted to learn every day. He was practicing his shooting, his dribbling, his left foot, right foot. He's working on his strength in the gym. But we managed him really well as well. We had a good, like I said, group of senior players who knew the ability that he had. Mile Jednak was the captain. Paddy McCarthy was a captain as well, who wouldn't let Wilf get away with any, kind of, taking the mick out of the rest of us, or taking the mick out of himself. It was he was regulated well by the dressing room to allow him to kind of do what he did on a Saturday and win games.
And I was Ian Holloway, working under Holloway.
Ollie was a character. He came in, and Ollie struggled to start with, because, like I said, we were all kind of put into this kind of regimented structure that we all knew what each other's strengths were, we all knew each other's weaknesses, we all knew how to play and manage games and things like that. We were on an incredible run where we were top of the league. Dougie obviously left, which was a massive loss to us, as player, not only as players but as people, because we had such a close bond with him. But Ollie came in with his exuberance and just fun-loving character, and try to play this free-flowing football, change the style, and we suffered a little bit. And to his internal credit, he kind of put his own methodology to one side and understood what the group's strengths were, and we kind of got a blend of his style and Dougie's style, which I think ate away at him. I think he wanted the free-flowing football that he had at Blackpool and got him promoted, but we mirrored the two or matched the two together, and he was a big factor in why we got promoted, and it was a laugh a minute, as you can imagine. It was it was good fun working for him.
Yeah, but he's a bit of a crazy chap, isn't he? So
yeah, he is. He is as he comes across on TV. He's just a footballing person. He could. I bet he talks football in his sleep. It's morning, noon, and night with him, and sometimes it got a little bit too much for us, but that's what Ian Holloway's about, and we loved him for it. And like I said, he was a big factor in why we got promoted. Yeah,
because he's obviously been won and lost at Wembley and in the playoffs and that. So, do you think that was a massive part of why you sort of got promoted, is him being there before?
Yeah, 100%. He had that experience. Not many of us in that group had it, which could be a good thing and a bad thing. If you don't have the experience, then you don't know what you're going through, so you just go out and play. The Brighton games that we just played them. We had a lot of things that obviously went on that Ollie took care of with his experience in them positions, and just enabled us to go out and play football. And Brighton at home, we lost Glenn Murray to a cruciate as well, which was, you lose a championship's top goal scorer, you think you're dead and buried, but he somehow found a way to get the best out of the group without the main goal scorer. And like you touched on before, Wilf was stood up and was the star of the show.
I want to ask you, a good friend of mine's a Palace fan. Wanted me to ask you about your sort of relationship with Damien Delaney.
Yeah, Damien, when I first moved from Newcastle to QPR, Damien was at QPR, and I struggled with homesickness for about the first 6 months of my move. I'd never been south of the River Tyne. I literally moved from Jermaine Jennings said it and got ridiculed, and he was 100% right. But when he left Newcastle, he said it was like a goldfish bowl, and it really is. When you leave there and move down to London, it's the big bad world of London with all the bright lights and concrete buildings, and it is like a concrete jungle, and I'd suffered. But Damien was the one person who kind of brought me around. I was in a transition of moving into my own place, which was a little bit out of the city, so I moved in with Damo for a bit, and we just formed this bond. We had a lot of things that we kind of shared, or a lot of interests we shared. We both loved golf, went for games of golf. We both loved a night out. Damo took me to a lot of places which he'd found in the back streets of London, but it was great. And when he came to Palace, the second time that we played together, it was just a great for me, because I already knew what Damon was about. He knew what I was about, and we struck up an instant relationship on the pitch as well as obviously off it. And I actually spoke to him the other day. He's back in Ireland, and I'm going to go over in the next, hopefully in the next few months, and share a few Guinnesses and a few games of golf with him.
Nice.
So then, obviously, after Crystal Palace, you ended up being loaned out the season after promotion. I was that disappointing anyway, because you didn't play in the Premier League?
Yeah. I was frustrated and angry and annoyed and all of the above. I thought that, maybe my talent wasn't for Ollie for the Premier League, but I thought that I deserved the chance, just like everybody else had deserved. Seemed to be getting a chance. Damo was getting an opportunity. Dean Moxie and Garvin, all these players were getting opportunities, and all of a sudden I wasn't, which I thought was unfair. But again, that comes down to the player thinking he's above the case, which I respected Ollie for his decision. Whilst I didn't agree with it, I respected him for it. So I probably hastily agreed to go up to Barnsley. I could have maybe waited and got a team that was... I knew Barnsley was obviously going to be fighting for relegation in the Championship. They'd obviously stayed up by the skin of their teeth the year before. But a little bit of a family decision came into that as well. My wife had just had our second kid. She needed to be nearer home. So Barnsley's only a couple of hours down the road from Newcastle. So, we moved up the road and moved north so she could be... We all could be closer to home. But yeah, it irked me a bit to have to leave Palace and not get an opportunity to play in the Premier League, because I knew that I wasn't going to get many other chances. But again, it's what managers are paid for. And like I said, while I respected Ollie for his decision, it hurt that I wasn't given an opportunity.
Yeah, I can imagine. You have to play such a big part, like in the promotion season as well.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you know what it is. If I'd been given one game and I was crap, then I would have held my hands up and just said I wasn't good enough. But you know, not to get that opportunity was disappointing. But you know, they stayed up. You know, the year after, I know Ollie didn't obviously last very long in the Premier League, but the players that he brought in ultimately meant that they stayed up, and so probably his decision was right in the end to ship me out.
So then, obviously, but did you enjoy Barnsley though? Even though
I loved it, I really
stuff.
did. It was like I said, I probably hastily decided to go there. I could have, and I felt that I was. And this is going to sound really arrogant, but I felt it was better than Barnsley after just the season that I had. I thought I could have gone to another team that was potentially going to, you know, challenge for promotion. But I absolutely loved it. I love Barnsley. It's a great football club with really good people there. And yeah, you know, we ultimately got relegated the season I was there. It was a real learning experience for me. And I did. I loved it. Hence why I went back the season after. To, you know, obviously to try and, you know, get them back out of League One. But it was a football club which, you know, I played for. I like to think I played for traditional clubs throughout my career in England. It always, you know, they always had some sort of history to them, and you know, Barnsley certainly was one of that. And you know, ultimately, while it didn't work out on the field in terms of, like I said, we got relegated. It was a great experience to play for such a great club.
Yeah, and can enjoy if you went back the season after they'd been relegated as well.
Yeah, I mean, I struck up a really good relationship. Danny, you know, I went under Dave Flitcroft. He came and went, and Danny Wilson came in, and we had a really good relationship, me and Danny, and you know, it worked for me to go back was great.
So obviously after Barnsley, you went to the Indian Super League. Was that something that just came to fruition sort of out of nowhere, or was that something you thought about? Or
no, out of nowhere. I went. We finished the season at Barnsley, and I was out of contract at Palace, but I went back for Julian Speroni's testimonial game.
Mm-hmm.
And the game was Peter Taylor, who's obviously the ex-England, you know, youth team and under 21s and first team coach, and he was good friends with Steve Parish, one of the co-owners at Palace, and you know, Peter was just taken over at Kerala Blasters, who were obviously it was the Indian Premier League. It was going into the second season. The first season, Kerala had done really, really well. David James, I think, was the player coach, and on the way back on the train, I got a phone call from him just asking him if I would be interested, and he gave me some time to think about it. Obviously, it was a huge decision to make, but I've said it before, and I'll say it again. A lot to do with my decision was what they were offering me money wise.
Yeah,
it's probably one of the first times that I've gone for that kind of motivation. But and also a motivating factor for me was that, you know, all my mates, all my friends, family had been traveling around the world and seen and done all these incredible things, and you know, I'd just been stuck on the on the Queen's country playing football. So I thought, India, was it a country I'm going to go on, you know, on a holiday? No,
probably not.
So no, so I thought it was, you know, why not take that decision to go out there? And it was a 4-month season, so I knew that I could come back in January, be available and sign for somebody. And like I said, it was a decision that was somewhat financially motivated. I'll honestly say, hand on heart, it was probably one of the best decisions I made to go out there.
I think that's fair enough, though, isn't it? I think you get sort of a new experience with it, as well as a decent payday. So
yeah, I mean, I was 30, 31, 32 at the time, and I knew I was coming to the end of my career, and I knew financially I wasn't going to earn the money that I was earning in previous seasons. So I mean, the decision was kind of somewhat financially motivated, but like I said, to go to an opportunity to a beautiful country like India and experience a different culture, a different way of life, and different kind of football, I thought it was an opportunity that I would regret if I turned down. And like I said, it was probably one of the best decisions I made, was to go out there, because I had an unbelievable 4 months, and I was somewhat disappointed that I didn't, extend my stay there.
Yeah. Did you find it football quality wise? Did you find it a challenge or just the whole?
No, it was good. It was it really surprised me. I had a lot of friends that were there in the inaugural season, and they really said it was a standard of football that surprised them with the quality both of the Indian players, but also the stars that were going out there were some international superstars. It's okay, they may be at the end of their career, but the experience that they brought that helped develop the league was second to none to learn off these kind of players. And it was a decision that I would do over again if I got that opportunity.
Yeah, so obviously you said it was a 4-month season because there's only, I think there's 10 teams in the league or something like that.
I think good question. I think something like that. We didn't play many games.
Did you find that more intense, the fact that the season was so much shorter?
Yeah, it was. But I mean, it was like playing hard. I think there was 8 teams, if memory serves me right, or 9 teams or something like that. So you played each team. Well, you played home and away, just like you would normally. But the games kind of went over. Went week by week, so you had enough time to recover. There was a lot of travelling involved. India's a really big country, and we were at Kochi, which was the base of the country, and so there's a lot of travelling for us to do. But again, that was one of the reasons why I went, was to go and experience cities like Mumbai, Goa, Kochi itself, and then it was a beautiful country that filled me with a lifetime of memories, and the memories as well as are on the pitch, because the standard was really, really good.
Yeah. Do you think, obviously you had a spell at Coventry and Leyton Orient, and then obviously moved to joined Arizona at the time. Do you think that trip, so that year out at India or half year at India, set you up for that move? Like, because you obviously played domestic before that move to India. I think that sort of set you up for it.
I mean, I went. Coventry's probably the only regret in my career. The club I went to. I mean, I loved it. I only had, I think it was 6 weeks there. In the end, didn't work out for me. But I went there for the wrong reasons. I knew that I left India, came back and started training with Coventry. Middle of December or beginning of December for a month. I knew I couldn't sign till January the 1st. I really, really enjoyed it. There's some quality there. James Maddison was coming through. Joe Cole was there. Sam Ricketts, who's now manager at Shrewsbury, was there. There's a lot of talent in that squad. That was, Adam Armstrong, a Geordie lad that I knew well, scoring goals for fun. Jacob Murphy, who's now at Newcastle, was there. So I knew it was a talented squad that had an opportunity to get promoted. And I thought, I might be able to get another promotion on my CV. Yeah. But I knew that I wasn't going to play. I was going there as a backup. I was going to play the odd game, which, like I said, was probably the wrong mentality to go in, because I knew that no matter how well I played, I knew that there was going to be, they were bringing in two young players from Premier League clubs that were kind of going to have to play or going to play. And I had that month, 6 weeks off, which kind of put me back in terms of playing football. I wasn't even allowed to play reserve team football. So come the beginning of January, when I got thrown in, I wasn't game ready, which ultimately cost me my time at Coventry, because I didn't perform, and that was through no fault of my own. It was me. I wasn't good enough at that time. I had 6 weeks off after the India trip, and it just didn't fit. But I had a great time, albeit short, and then it ended up, that move, I ended up going to Leyton Orient with Kevin Nolan, which was interesting to say the least, with the Italian owner that was in charge right there then. But it was, again, Leyton Orient was it. By that time, I was starting to get match fit. I was ready. That was a drop down another league into League Two, but they were fighting for the playoffs. It's just like I said, we had somebody at the top who knew and thought he could do things better, but ultimately proved that he didn't.
I wanted to ask you, actually, did you felt like you had any repercussions with the knee injury, or was that sort of like completely sound?
No, fine, because I was always wary. It was Alan Shearer, Michael Owen, who after I'd done my first cruciate, kind of took me to one side, and Al had a really serious, obviously he'd done his cruciate as well when he was younger. In the 90s. Michael Owen, I think it was the season before mine, he'd done his at the World Cup. So he was fresh off the back of his, and they told me from the minute that I did it that I was going to have to do something for the rest of my career, and it proved to be that. And I think that advice that they gave me helped me have the longevity in my career. I retired on my own terms at 34. My injuries, my knees, whatever it is, they didn't retire me. It was my decision, which, I was thankful that, two such respected footballers, had the time to come and tell me that, because I don't think if I hadn't have done that, maybe I wouldn't have been able to play for as long as I did.
And then obviously, mentioned earlier, you went to Arizona. Was that another? I know obviously early in your career, when you moved to Palace, you were homesick. Was that a massive change for you, moving out there?
I mean, I was ready to go on trial to Blackpool. I spoke to Gary Boyer, who was the manager at the time, and I was literally packed up the car and ready to go down for like 2 weeks. It was the middle of pre-season. And then I got a phone call out of a coach that I work with at QPR called Mark Bircham. He rang us up, asked us if I wanted to go out to Arizona, to Phoenix. And geography was never my strongest point at school. Didn't have a clue where it was. So Birch kind of explained what was going on out there. I thought, so I was like, well, you're going to have to give me 2 weeks, because, I'm going to Blackpool. I'm a man of my word in that respect. But I rang Gary Boyer up and just said, listen, I'm going to have the 2 weeks, and then you're going to have to give me an instant decision. This has come up, and, fair play. And we just said, don't bother coming to Blackpool, get yourself on the next plane and get yourself out there, which I did. And it proved to be probably, again, similar to the India decision to leave and go to another country, proved to be one of the best decisions I made. I absolutely love the place. It's not long since I've come back from there. So it's, all in total, I think I've been there for 3 or 4 years, which says a lot for the club.
Yeah. So you played quite a bit for them out there, didn't you? Made quite a few players.
Yeah. Played for 18 months out there. I went for the last part of the 2016 season, and then played the majority of the 2017 season. It's a kind of smaller league season with the playoffs at the end. But it was, again, different culture, different environment, different way of life. America is always a country that I've loved going on holiday to, and to live out there was a surreal experience. My family didn't come with me when I was playing, because I was starting to do year by year contracts. So the kids were starting to go into school. So it was hard for them to come out and live. But, my wife was unbelievable. She allowed me to go out and experience, the twilight of my careers with kind of no pressure of family life, which, I think sometimes she annoyed her. That I was out here on my own, but they came out and visited 2 or 3 times a year, which was great. But it was a club that was developing. There was a lot of things that were going on at the time, from when I joined to then obviously when I left. It kind of changed, obviously ownership, changed name, and changed in a million other ways, which was all for the better. Yeah.
How hard a decision does it get? Like you say, then sort of when your contracts and deals become sort of year long, how hard is that? Are those decisions sort of moving around with the family and that?
Yeah, really, really hard, because there's other people to factor into it, not just yourself. So the decision does become more family motivated. But like I said, I've got such an unbelievable support base behind me. Led by my missus. Yeah, she's been incredible support for me throughout my career. She's always allowed me to go and do kind of what I wanted to do. She's given up a lot in her life for me, which I'll be eternally grateful for. But we've had some incredible experiences as a family as well, through going to the places that we've been at. Obviously culminating and going out to Phoenix. They came out when I went back to coach out there. They came with me, and for the girls to live and experience a moment in their life in America is probably something that hopefully they'll cherish.
Yeah, I bet. I bet they're glad to be back in Newcastle now, though, after.
Yeah, well, yes and no. They've just started schools this week, or last week, I should say. But in America, they can wear what they want. It was kind of own clothes day every day.
Back in the uniforms now.
Yeah, back in uniforms now, which, they're enjoying it at this moment in time. But I know the novelty will wear off, and they'll be pandering for going back out where they can just wear what they want.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask as well, am I right in thinking that you played with Didier Drogba at some point in your career?
Yeah, played with Didier at Phoenix.
What's he like as a character?
Great question. Probably one. I mean, he came to us at 39, 40-year-old as a part owner of the football club. But to see and experience how he lives and breathes football was, even at 39, 40-year-old, was inspiring, to be honest with you. He was a winner. He didn't just come for a final hurrah. He came to win. He's been a winner all his whole career. He trained properly. He looked after his body like I've never seen anybody look after their own body. It was an incredible experience to see what it would have taken to get to the top.
Yeah.
And then, above that, his ability. Like I said, he couldn't move. He could hardly run.
Yeah.
He put the ball in the box, and he scored. I think he still had a ridiculous ratio. I think it was one in 2 goals, or 1 goal in every 2 games, or it could even have been better than that. And he was brilliant. And then off the field, there was like myself, there was Jordan Stewart, Sean Wright-Phillips, and Didier, kind of the 4 elder statesmen, who's probably all combined age was all put together, was older than everybody else. But it was great to share a dressing room with them, them 3, and obviously Didier in particular was inspiring to watch and see how he worked on a daily basis.
Obviously, you ended up back there coaching. I think was it nearly a year after you left there or stopped playing there that you got the coaching role, or assistant manager. Was that something that was sort of in the works while you were there, or did it just sort of come up?
Yeah, it just came up. I left Phoenix on the Thursday, and in between seasons, I'd gone back to Newcastle and kept fit, and obviously coaching was something that I wanted to get into. So I began coaching at the academy. Ben Dawson and Peter Beardsley were 2 of my role models from a coaching perspective, and Peter from many reasons. And as soon as I landed in Newcastle on the Friday morning, Ben was on the phone to ask if I wanted to come in. So the decision to make to retire was kind of taken out my hands. I thought an opportunity to go back and work at the football club that I'd grown up and loved was too good to turn down. I didn't know if I was going to get that opportunity, albeit it was part-time, which was a bit frustrating. But I knew that it was the start in my next career path. And 9 months later, there was still no sign of a full-time gig. And Rick Shantz, who was the assistant at the time, I was a player there, got the gig on a full-time role, and rang me up and said he needed some help with the next player that I played with, Billy Gavin. And again, it was a decision which I had to take a few days to make, because it's all good and well being getting in the car and driving down the A1, but this was flying the other side of the world again. And like I said, my wife and my kids came out with me this time, and it was a decision that I wouldn't have taken if they weren't going to make that sacrifice and come out. Yeah.
And then obviously now back at Newcastle. Somewhere that you always wanted to come back to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's I never hid the fact that it was always a club that I wanted to work for. I'm in a role now which helps me as a person as well as a coach. I'm working at the under-23s, which it's obviously still a developmental age, which is a group that, or a part that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be involved in the help and the progression to make it as a first teamer. I've got a passion for working with young professionals, and I'm working with an unbelievably talented group of coaches, right from the under-9s through to the 23s with Chris Hogg, who's obviously the lead 23s. To work with experienced coaches like this is only going to help me develop as a coach and continue in my career path.
Yeah. Do you sort of look back at when you were a youngster and try and sort of deal with lads now in the same sort of way, like how you would want to be sort of dealt with?
That's $1 million question, because I think we were. Or
has things changed now? So
yeah, things have changed. it's a lot less forgiving, the environment that these guys are coming through now than it was when I was coming up. I know you referenced talked to Stevie Caldwell. He was one of the, the leaders of the dressing room, and he'll probably testify that dressing rooms are different now than they weren't to when we were growing up. And there's a lot of questions on whether the difference between the times, but it is what it is. And these kids are, they've got to work their socks off, and they know that. We've got a great group of kids at this moment in time, the 23s, who are talented and hardworking, and have the motivation to get to the next stage. It's just how much do they want it, and it's our job to hopefully realise their potential to try and get to that point.
Yeah. So I think overall, just summarise on looking back, it's been a pretty impressive career, and I think obviously sky's the limit now with coaching for you. So on behalf of me, I know Dom's not here now because there's some technical difficulties, but I just like to say thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed that.
I've had fun. It's been great to talk to you guys.
Thank you.
Good luck with this.
Yeah, no, thank you. So we'll catch you on the next podcast whenever that will be.
Sounds good. No worries.